Okay, it's time to pull another dusty relic out of the corner. Now, this thing's been sitting here since I came in the shop. And I could have used it and didn't have it, so now it's time to put it back together and make it usable again. Let's get this turned around so you can see it. This is my Delta Shopmaster 9-inch benchtop bandsaw, and I didn't have any problems with it. Yeah, it's a little small, it's a little weak, it doesn't take very wide blades, so you can't do a whole lot of, resawing or anything you can do with the big 14-inch monsters. But as far as being a relatively safe way to, cut small things or curves, it sure beats a jigsaw. We're going to see what we can do to get this thing tuned up and cleaned up a little bit. Okay, it's been a while since anybody's cleaned this thing out. Looks like mice have been carrying things in there. Still got sawdust remnants of the last project I made with it. So the blade's not broken. The neoprene, whatever it is, on these wheels look a little rough. Let's get the vacuum of this thing out and take it apart. Well, that's not good. That's the rubber off these wheels that grip the blade. So, if we can find some of those, they're going to need replaced. I hope they're still around. Well, the inside of this thing cleaned up okay. Now, the cover here is plastic, so it's fine. And it seems like the frame, the wheels, the table, all that's aluminum, so it fared okay. What did not fare okay were the wheels that go, the tires, I call them, that go on these wheels. And that's what the blade track's on. And they just got extremely brittle and they just broke into bits. So I gotta find if they have replacements for these, or I can find some. It's only a 9 3/8 inch wheel, so it's gonna be a pretty specific find, I think. Now outside, the cover cleaned up okay, even though it's terribly yellowed from time. I was able to get the tabletop cleaned up a little bit. It was covered with all that white aluminum powder. It's not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than it was. Now the operational test shows that it's not plugged in. Now the operational test shows the motor works. And even the lamp works. 2 more things I don't have to replace at least. All right, what's next? Just a couple days later, I'm back working on the bandsaw, and I lucked out. Apparently, the tires for these wheels are pretty easy to find, even for this old, Delta bandsaw. So let's try to get these things on. The process for putting this on seems pretty simple. You just stretch it over the wheel, and there you go. Now, there were some suggestions in the comments from the product page when I bought the thing. And folks were saying that they've had good luck with dropping them in boiling water, warm them up, and then they stretch right over the wheel. I don't have any boiling water here in the shed, so generally that's only been a problem with boiling water for coffee or hot chocolate, but I've never had to boil machine parts before. So I think I'll go with plan B, and that will be just start the tire on one side of the wheel, tie wrap it on to anchor it in place, and then just proceed stretching it around the wheel with a smooth screwdriver or something and slide it onto the wheel that way. So that's what we're going to try. Yeah, it's going to be a good stretch. There we go. Wasn't too bad. Get it evenly in the slot. All right. Line up 2. Now this one's a little tighter, not the tire, but the working space a little bit tighter here. All right, practice. Okay. Cut the tire wraps off. Had a little learning curve on the first one, and the second one went a lot better. So now all I gotta do is put the blade back on it, try to get it tracking. I think I have another blade around here somewhere, but this one has some rust on it from sitting around. It will probably work. Let's give it a try. Okay, so the teeth are out this way. Can't help but go down. Now apparently, the trick to setting these up properly so that you don't get a lot of blade drift. Blade drift is when you're pushing a piece of wood through your bandsaw and you need to give it just a little bit of angle to get it to cut a straight line, which doesn't seem right, but same thing happens with jigsaws. When you use a jigsaw, sometimes you got to skew it just a little bit to get the blade to track straight across your line. The same thing happens with a bandsaw because the blade is so thin. But apparently, the way to set these up, because when you're cutting the wood through, what takes the pressure is going to be the teeth of the blade, the front edge of the blade. So you want the tension to be on the front edge of the blade. The back is just basically, keeping the piece in the slot, I guess. So you want the teeth of the blade, the front half of the blade, to be tracking in the center of the wheel on that tire. So that the tire has a little bit of a crown to it. And so the tightest part of the blade on the wheel is going to be in the center of that tire. So you want the teeth of the blade to run in the center of the tire, which means the whole blade is going to look like it's a little bit farther back on the wheel, and that gives you the most tension on the teeth so that you get the tension where it needs to be in the blade. At least that's the way I understand it. So this is how we're going to set it up. Now I have an adjustment wheel on the back, an adjustment knob I should say, and you tweak it one way or the other. It basically tilts that wheel to allow the blade to run out to the front or to the back. Let me see if you can see that here. See there, the blade is going to the back of the wheel. Now if I turn it the other direction, there you go, it comes forward. So you can use that to tweak where that blade rides on the wheel. Now let me step in front of the camera and track it. And I think that looks pretty good. The blade is rubbing on this bearing here. This is basically just a thrust bearing, and it shouldn't really be touching unless you're putting pressure on the blade. It'll push it back into that thrust bearing to keep it from going back any farther. Now, that can be adjusted backward and forward with that screw. I'll just loosen that up, push that back ever so slightly so that when the blade is running, that bearing is not touching, which it is now. It just has to be back far enough that it's not touching when the blade is turning. You go there and lock it down. There we go. Now if I were to push wood into there, it would push the blade back and it would go into the... And there's one on the bottom as well. Now I think I should probably replace those bearings. This one is touching the blade, but it's not spinning the bearing. The next thing we need to look at are these bearing blocks in here. These are, on this machine, these are just little square plastic rods. And you can buy replacements for these that are ceramic. They're supposed to run cooler. You want the blade to pass through the blocks without the teeth catching them. So this whole block runs back and forth in this holder, so you can adjust where they ride on that blade. And there are some down below as well, and so we'll adjust those in and out until they track properly across the blade. And I gave them enough clearance so that when the blade is being pushed back against that bearing, the teeth will still not be contacting the blocks. I think I'm going to tempt fate. I'm going to turn this thing on, try to cut some wood with it. hope we don't scare the barn cat. Well, it cuts wood. Well, there we go. Another tool rescued. Something I've got to find room for in here, but another tool that I can use when I go to start building projects or maybe working on this place. I hope your tools don't get rusty like this. You know, your tools need love too. So when you watch this, if you feel badly for my tools, go out to your workshop and, hug your tools, let them know you care. Maybe, dust them off, put a little polish on them or something. Don't let them get like this because, they get sad. And hopefully I've made this one a little bit happier and we can make stuff together again. Isn't that right, Barn Cat? Now, when I was out here messing with the bandsaw, I did notice the top of my table saw needs a little bit of love. The season is changing. Autumn is upon us, and you've probably heard the rain hitting the tin roof here. We've had remnants of a hurricane go through, so the air is very moist. It's getting colder at night, warm during the day, heat cycling and all that, condensation. I've noticed a little bit of rust forming on my table, and that is not good. So I need to put another layer of wax on this thing. I've got some Scotch-Brite and I've got some paste wax. So I'm just going to hit this, get the rust off of it, give it a coat of wax, and hopefully that'll help it through the winter. I'll reapply if I see that this is not sufficient, but this is just, the care that needs done so that it doesn't become the way it was. Well, that looks a little bit better. I'll keep an eye on that and see how that works. So I'm curious, what do you all use for your equipment in your shop? Is it just wax? Do you have some special product? I watch the reviews as well, so I kind of know what's out there, but I'd like to know from personal experience, what works? Do the expensive products work any better than plain old paste wax? Let me know. I'm not above spending a couple of extra dollars to make sure I don't have to do this as often as this, but let me know what you found out and what your experience is about protecting your cast iron.